A lot of people don't talk about it, but Pepsi Cola started appealing to black folks in the late 30s, 1940, with an all black team. Yeah. During Jim Crow, during legalized segregation, they thought Coke was just trying to cater to white consumers. So they said, let's create this. And maybe that's why Pepsi didn't kind of gotten, when you think about the corporate endorsements, who can forget in the 80s what it meant when Michael Jackson endorsed him? He even drank it, but he was a spokesperson for him. How the popularity of that was. That was huge, you know, at that time. Some people looked at it as a sellout. Some people like, wow. But they were reaching for the community. That was part of it. That cola product pitch was something else. And he was one. Ray Charles, you got the right one. Pepsi was trying to make that appeal. Everything has been about compare, contrast, what side you're on, how you like it, where you want it, that sort of thing. But when you go back and you hear these stories, that's hecka of impressive because you're always taught of how segregated everything was, how these places were. But to think that the CEO of Pepsi was actually looking at black people as consumers and respectful says a lot. That goes a long way. That's why Pepsi came out the choice of a new generation. And they had a real interesting appeal factor with that. Just thinking about that when you stop and think about that for a moment. Because soda pop is huge. And it's one of those things that people consumed a lot of. Now, I never was big on Pepsi, but when you understand what they went to do and how they were about trying to appeal, that says a lot, especially in that day and that time, because you got to think about that. You think about the late 30s, 1940, when Jesse Owens came back, who won all them gold medals in the 36 Berlin, Germany, with Adolf Hitler looking at him. He came back and he was treated like a second class citizen with all that. You think about the timing. This was before Jackie Robinson in baseball. So if you do something that is considered to be against the curve and do something that's, respectful, especially with common sense, but you got to remember something. A lot of people were not, were going to be divisive and look at you such strange and sideways. This was huge. This was very huge. And so to hear that Pepsi did this, that they were responsible, that they were reasonable, that they were about making changes. Now, granted, you don't want to touch no soda pop, all the sugar, all the chemicals, all everything else that's in it. However, ask yourself, that still was saying a lot as a human to do that. And when you read about it, that was pretty a bold move because again, a lot of people weren't doing that. A lot of people weren't, these companies. Now you hearing how now with all the political rhetoric going on, pulling diversity programs, pulling black base out of places. So to hear that someone would do this in the face of the Jim Crowism, the real. Because believe it or not, we're more progressive than we were then, but it don't feel like it a lot of times. But this was saying a lot to do this. To think that a person who was running a company was going to stand up and acknowledge a race of people who had taste, who wanted to probably partake in that willingly. You got to remember, to drink that in places that still had separate sections and bathrooms and the mental illness that has been plagued. But to have an opportunity to have a soft drink, to have a soft drink that was representative and that, the totality, that was quite very progressive. So, when you read about it, when you think about it, you really, um, you just have to kind of like be in awe in a way. You just kind of like, wow. But it wasn't that long ago. Tell people all the time when you think about it, we talking um, a little over 80 years ago. That's not that long ago. That's not that long ago. When you think about the totality of everything and how it, manifests and, how it takes a life of its own, it really isn't that long ago. So just remember, I thought, people who want to read about it, what Pepsi and the CEO did about bridging the racial gap and acknowledging black people as consumers for their beverages, It's a time, it's just something to acknowledge because to understand those times and how people were and to acknowledge as consumers, that says a lot. So salute to Pepsi on that. I don't mess with none of them pops. In all honesty, Coca-Cola in the bottle was my favorite if I had to be honest. But I like what Pepsi did though. And that's a fact. You don't even think about how divisive that is until you hear it, you read about it, you do your research on it, and you're like, wow, that was really that heinous. And it wasn't that long ago. Because if somebody is pushing 95 to 100 and they got stories about it, they could tell you. That's crazy when you think about it. That's crazy. But that's not that far removed. Please hit like, subscribe, work on thoughts, comments, and I do respond. Thank you. Wash your hands. Keep your mind clear. Watch out for another. Share the video if you like. Hit that membership. Stay safe, stay blessed, stay woke, stay free. I'm out. Peace.